Hi, welcome to Season 2, Episode 1 of Impact Effectively, which I've entitled Impacts Around the World. Because throughout this season, I'm talking to friends of mine around the world who use NLP and other approaches to do some pretty marvellous things. I'm Florence Madden. I'm an NLP trainer and coach based in Cumbria in the north of England. I'm also the author of The Intention Impact Conundrum and the co-author of Everyday NLP. And I'm delighted to kick off the season with my friend Elli Papadopoulou, whose business and who she's the founder of In Vivo Fertility, and she is based in Athens. Elli is a psychologist and an NLP trainer and consultant. Anyway, over to you, Elli, to tell us all about your business and how you help people with NLP.
Hello, Florence. Hello to everyone who's watching us. It's such a great pleasure to be here. It's a delight to be sharing time with you and discussing one of my very, very favorite topics, which is in vivo fertility. In vivo fertility is actually about sharing and applying the way of thinking, the NLP way of thinking, neuro-linguistic programming way of thinking, and developing also new tools and techniques in order to hold the space and support either individuals, I call them families from day one, because anybody who has intention of family, according to In Vivo Fertility, is a family already, in a sense. So individuals, couples, families who are in the journey of wanting to expand their family. They could be facing some challenges, some fertility challenges, like waiting, like TTCA, trying to conceive, or having received the diagnosis of infertility, and dealing and going through a therapy, an assisted reproduction therapy circumstance. So that's one arm of in vivo fertility. The other arm, because the way I see in vivo fertility is really like a hug. With one arm, it's actually holding the space for these people going through that journey. And also with the other hand is actually providing resources for the teams who are supporting that special group of people. So the therapeutic team, the medical teams, even family teams, their own families, and how they kind of can hold the space and support this situation in the most, in the best way possible for that individual. And it's such a precious, it's my mission, it's such a precious experience and offering from me to everybody who is going through that kind of phase in their lives.
Yeah. I love that idea, and obviously the linguistic part of NLP and the importance of language. And I love that idea that you're referring to the people that you're working with as a family from day one, and also that idea of a hug. I'm interested, you mentioned about not just working with the families concerned, but also with the medical staff as well. What do you do there?
Exactly. It's actually a program that is going through, and we're doing it. It's starting in Greece already. I'm working with the Naval Hospital of Athens and the medical team there, the support team there of their assisted reproduction unit. And it's actually, Florence, about the fertile mindset that we discuss and that we kind of apply and try to target towards, move towards with individuals, with the families that I'm working with, similar kind of ways of thinking and working within the fertility context, but from the side of the medical team. So imagine, because I'm the idea was because I'm very much of a systemic approach. So I was thinking, okay, you can have impact on one side of the equation, if you like.
Yeah.
How about if that impact can be generalized to actually assist and enable the whole system to work together? in a similar way with similar kind of, experiences and tools and techniques. And that's why what I'm doing. So it's a training program. It's a mindset training program for this kind of therapeutic teams in order to assist in the best possible ways the families that they're assisting medically as well.
All right. Yeah. So you're not just looking at the mindset of the family, because that presumably can cause blockages that may be inhibiting their fertility, but also the mindset of the people that are working with them from a medical viewpoint. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
yeah, it's just creating that environment where what that's suggesting to me that things are possible and realistic, and that everybody involved in that is thinking in that way. Is that a reasonable way of?
Absolutely, Florence. It's very interesting because only recently the European Society of Human Reproduction and Embryology, who I'm a member of, are actually trying to, asking of everybody involved in the medical profession with reproduction that the psychosocial support should not just be, the role of the psychologist or the social worker, but it's a way of really functioning and thinking about the process from everybody involved. So
Yeah.
from the doctors, from the the sisters, everybody, the team, the support team in the medical centers, everybody should have ideally some sort of tools and techniques in order to apply and to cater in
Yeah.
that sort of way for the people. And no training is being very little training. That's a very deep need that has been expressed from these teams. No training is there. So that's the space that In Vivo Fertility in that area is providing in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I can see a much wider application given what you're saying to, I suppose, medicine generally, but not.
Thank
I don't
you.
want.
Exactly.
I don't want to take it away from what you're specifically looking at.
Exactly.
I wonder, for illustration purposes, if you could even talk about a case study.
Illustration. I'll give you an example. Of course, it's not going to be a very specific example. I cannot share,
No, I
of
understand
course,
that. Yeah.
information.
Yeah, just sort
However,
of an idea.
of course, I'm going to be focusing on two occasions, on two different things. The importance of language is as you've covered in your podcast so extensively and vivaciously, and it is indeed a very, very important issue for NLP. Obviously, it's the second, in the acronym, it's linguistic. So the way we think about, the way we express ourselves about our situation, about the fertility journey that we're going through, even the name In Vivo Fertility is actually doing that reframing. It's as opposed to in vitro fertilization, which is actually the IVF, therapy that we all know. So it's turning it on its head in a sense, and it's making it. It's very much about your life, and it's not about something that is happening to you, but it's something that's happening for you. And imagine, for example, 40 years ago, before the first Test Tube baby, Louise Brown, came to life.
Yeah.
All these fantastic opportunities and choices that we now have were not available to us. So, first of all, something that, we kind of work together from day one is how we see our situation, how we express ourselves within that situation. Another no-no, if you want, that we kind of work together with the families is it's my next attempt. No, it's not an attempt. Attempt almost has inherent in it the idea of it's not. It's gonna miss. It's gonna be a failure kind of thing. So we talk about cycles. We talk about going through the process rather than going over. Going through. It's just a journey. So language is very important, and it can play a big part.
Yes.
And another way that I work with is about expanding, hierarchy of ideas. And I'm referring to these terms because, of course, you are a master NLPer, but also maybe our audience are familiar as well with some of the ideas of the NLP philosophy.
Yeah.
So some people, many people come with a specific target, if you want, or objective of reproduction, and then we kind of work together to expand that and to see what that means in terms of maybe a family, and what does a family mean to you? Can it just be a biological child? Could it be a different sort of parenting relationship? Could it be even a wider kind of sharing what you really are with people that you care for? And then to fertility, which is such an interesting metaphor. And you very rightly pinpointed to the fact that this fertility mindset is not just about, fertility to fertility application, but it's also, of course, fertility to health issues, to health challenges. And it's also about being fertile in your life in general. So it can be applied to any life issue and challenges.
Yeah, I love that. I love that whole reframe. And just listening to you, I can imagine how individuals, couples, whatever, come to you with maybe quite a narrow focus. And in NLP, as you know, we talk about that everyone has a different map of the world, and how we see it defines our world and our ambitions, and I suppose just so much about how we see our lives. And what I love listening to you is how you're helping people redefine and to reframe how they see their lives. And it also strikes me, not knowing a great deal about this whole subject, but I guess when you move people away from this narrow focus, how that must almost help the body relax and do what it's supposed to do. And I think it's Richard Bandler that talked about one of the barriers to our effectiveness is foveal vision, this whole idea of focusing in on just one thing and ignoring the rest.
Absolutely.
And he talks about how inhibiting inner chatter is, and again your focus on language and how you're changing the language that people are using, and so you're changing the language that their unconscious mind is hearing as well.
Absolutely. And it's actually, I have this example which has very recently was starting to be adopted actually, especially in the States. They're now calling the whole thing of infertility, they're reframing it to subfertility. Isn't that amazing? That kind of infertile, irreversible sense and feeling, and think of just feel what it does to you. Whereas subfertility is so much quantum. It opens up a new kind of array. It's not just black or white. It's just, it has so many colors in it, in a sense. So language is indeed a very important tool and technique and way of thinking.
Yeah, in some of the earlier podcasts, I don't know if anybody watching or listening has been listening to these or what your current knowledge of NLP is. But in some of the earlier podcasts, I've talked about the power of the unconscious mind. And of course, the unconscious mind hears everything that we say to ourselves, and it runs the body. It does that without reference to us. It's doing an awful lot of work in the background. So it kind of stands to reason that if you're feeding your unconscious mind unhelpful concepts, you're bound to be getting in the way of its effective operation, I suppose. So
absolutely,
yeah. So just
absolutely
changing all
there's so much, as you're saying, Florence. There's so much. There's a library of research evidence of showing that kind of mind-body connection and how powerful it is. I mean, the old thing that I remember even as ages ago as a psychology graduate, being kind of taught, the placebo effect. But what's even very interesting that I was reading lately is that even when you tell the person that, look, this is a placebo, it's not going to do something to your physiology. However, there is research that shows that even if we know, and we all know that this is not going to help, it does help, and please take it. And they even see, things are, the mind body is actually even influenced by that information. Yeah. So you can imagine what things can be done and how things can be, assisted if the mindset is helpful towards that, objective.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was actually, when you were speaking as well, just reflecting on just the name of your business, In Vivo, as opposed to in vitro, because in vitro refers to the glass, doesn't it?
Exactly, exactly. To all that research,
So
kind of environment. Exactly.
That belongs in a laboratory, as opposed to in vivo is this idea of having life inside you. And what I love is you've defined life much, much more broadly than simply a baby, although that's probably what most people are thinking about.
Absolutely.
When they come to you. But I do, that's such a lovely difference.
Yeah. And Florence, you know what I'm finding, and not just me, I mean the people that I work with, those kind of seeds of a fertile mindset, actually, of course, they're very helpful when you're going through the fertility journey and can be applied, but they stay with you. So even, when, everything goes well and you're going through the pregnancy, those kind of learnings and steps that the way that you've grown helps you in that. And also in parenthood, becoming a parent, what sort of parent do you want to be? What sort of a human being do you want to be at the end of the day? And who do you want to share what you are with? So that is the great reward, in a sense, that it kind of stays with you and grows with you. And the fertility journey, I see it as a great excuse, if you pardon my language, as a great opportunity to get into that kind of, working with yourself towards who you are, really.
Yeah. And as you say, just the baby is only the start of it. It's the whole journey of parenthood afterwards, and the mindset that you take into that.
Exactly.
Wow. Elli, well, I know we've only just touched, excuse me, briefly on what you're doing, and I'm guessing that people who are watching or listening to this will be fascinated by what you do. So if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way of doing that?
Certainly, there's my site, which is www.invivofert.com, and my email, which is Elli, ELLI, at invivofert.com. And all my information is there, and of course, I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn as well as Elli Papadopoulou and In Vivo Fertility. So it'll be a pleasure to have a chat, or whoever wants to, find out more. Just a friendly kind of chat.
And of course, I will put all your contact information into the paragraph that goes with these podcasts as well.
Thank you, Florence.
So, excuse me.
Bless you.
So thank you to those of you who've been watching or listening. And thank you, of course, to Elli for giving us a wee bit of an insight of how she uses her skills, and specifically her NLP skills, in this really, really important area of life, and not simply fertility. Although that's
Thank you so much. The pleasure was all mine. Thank you to you, Florence, and to our audience.
So there'll be more information about Elli, as I say, in the paragraph that goes with this podcast. You can find out more about what I do on my website, which is www.florencemadden.co.uk. And I hope you'll join me again next week when I speak to another one of my fabulous friends about how they're using NLP. So I wonder what country we'll be in next week.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
So bye for now.
Bye-bye.